Hello world, my name is Israel. This video will give a category theoretic introduction to dialectic, the formalism of dialectic. So the objects that the dialectician uses are dialectical propositions, which can be represented symbolically, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, etc. The relations or morphisms are given by reasoning. The notation I've chosen is a colon, as well as the standard morphism notation. So we begin with propositions. There are two diagrams here, but implicitly there are three propositions. The first proposition is that the objects relative to the morphisms are transitive. That is, regardless of the way in which A is associated to B qua morphism, and the way in which B is associated to C qua morphism, one can simply write the diagram without having to worry about an order of operations. The second proposition is that the diagram commutes. That is, B, to use the language of reasoning, B follows necessarily from A, and C follows necessarily from B, then C follows necessarily from A always. This is a basic function of reasoning, and it will be the most important fact that is used in the study of dialectic. The third proposition is that A follows necessarily from A. This is more important in the study of rhetoric than it is in the study of dialectic, but it is important here because the three propositions thus outlined show that dialecticians, as well as philosophers, work over a category of reasoning. So here's some notation that will be used. So if we write the above diagram and replace B with what is equivalent to it, or replacing B with a morphism to itself, which we can do on the hypothesis of associativity, then we can replace the notation of morphism with the notation of colon. And we have the beginning hypotheses required to frame the proposition of transitivity given in this form on the right-hand side here. One could also take it as definition, but this formal reduction is very interesting, I think. Observation. Dialectical argument begins with propositions reasoning on the subject of problems. So here we have the formalism of dialectic. This is starting with a dialectical proposition A, from which B is supposed to necessarily follow. Again, C is supposed to necessarily follow from B, etc., until we arrive at some last proposition in. The proposition in is supposed to settle some problem, so it's part of some problem. An intuitive derivation of the physics of dialecticians. So problem is never proposition, proposition is never problem. Proposition may become problem, and problem may become proposition by a turn of the phrase. These properties 1 and 2 allow the following conclusion. I should write that. This isn't really well known, but it also applies to the philosophers.